What's going on, y'all? What do you call a system where your culture is copied, your work is scraped, your remix is repackaged, and your voice is deep faked into a commercial you never got even paid for? In America, we call that progress. Welcome to Overruled. And today, we're objecting to the innovation hustle with the receipts in hand. Let's start the show. Welcome, everyone. This is Overruled, the podcast where the law meets the culture and the culture calls its lawyer. I'm your host, Jay, and this is going to be quite an episode today. Today, we're diving into a world where ideas are currency and creativity is collateral, especially if you're Black, brown, and brilliant. From stolen TikTok dances to billion-dollar fashion lines inspired by indigenous communities to AI models scraping our culture pixel by pixel. Intellectual property law in America doesn't protect everyone equally. It protects whoever could afford the lawyer and whoever had enough melanin not to get flagged by the algorithm. This week, we're pulling back the legal curtain on tech, trademarks, and the remix economy, where the rules are written in fine print and the footnotes say, good luck if you're not already in the club. Let's get into it by kicking things off with issues on the docket. Let's start with the US Patent and Trademark Office, or better known as the USPTO. Breaking news, as if, of course, we'll be surprised from this. Black inventors are still nearly 40% less likely to be granted a patent than white inventors. This is not from ancient history, nor is it fake news, unfortunately. It's from a 2023 update by the USPTO itself, confirming that racial disparities in patent decisions haven't budged. Fewer than 5/10 of all patents list a Black inventor. That's a 2025 reality. 0.5%, y'all. And now, with AI, biotech, and clean energy exploding, the stakes are higher and higher. The people most impacted by climate change, healthcare gaps, and digital surveillance, Black and brown communities, are often the last ones funded to innovate solutions and the first ones excluded from ownership altogether. Congress has proposed reforms like the Inventor Diversity for Economic Advancement, or the IDEA Act, but as of mid 2025, still stalled, still under the debate, and still unsurprising. In the meantime, though, venture capital for Black founders is down 45% compared to 2021, meaning even when our communities innovate, they're boxed out before they can protect or profit from their own ideas. And here is the kicker, y'all. The USPTO recently piloted a diversity pledge to track applicant demographics. The backlash? Immediate. Critics cried, wokeness. And now the program's on hold. So, yeah, the system is still saying the quiet part loud. We love innovation, just not from you niggas. What? Too harsh? Before you get carried away, this isn't just happening in labs and startups. The theft of creativity plays out every day on our phones through trends, sounds, and algorithms. We've all seen it. And nowhere is that more obvious than on TikTok. Let's talk about Jalea Harmon and the Renegade Dance. Back in 2020, She created one of TikTok's most viral moves. White influencers copied it, monetized it, even got invited to The Tonight Show. Jalea, initially left out. She eventually got some flowers, but not the funding, not the platform, and definitely not the protection under the law for her creativity. And in 2025, not much has changed. Black creators are still less likely to receive platform visibility, less likely to be credited, and more likely to be penalized for vague community violations. This year, TikTok rolled out a half baked creator attribution tool, but it's voluntary, easy to bypass, and doesn't resolve legal ownership whatsoever. Meanwhile, brands continue to scout trends from Black creators without contracts, lock in ad deals, and leave the originators out of the paycheck. In fact, a new lawsuit filed in June of 2025 accuses a major record label of using viral TikTok dances in a marketing campaign without licensing or crediting the creators. Any guesses as to what record label that is? Sound off. It's one of the first cases attempting to argue a digital choreography theft under the Lanham Act. And if it succeeds, it could reshape content protections for creators of color. But until then, short form dances, memes, and cultural audio are still sitting in the IP twilight zone, especially when they're Black created. So the next time you hear that viral sound, ask yourself, whose voice built this platform? And who's still being silenced by it? And more so, who's making money off of it? Often, it's not us. And while digital theft can happen in seconds, cultural theft in fashion has centuries of practice. The difference now, it's being broadcast in high definition and sold for a luxury markup. Cultural appropriation in fashion isn't just lazy, it's hella profitable. From Urban Outfitters' Navajo line to Dior's Maasai-inspired coats, designers continue to rip from indigenous, African, and Latinx cultures, often without a single dollar reported or returned to the people who originated those designs. In 2025, it's getting worse, y'all, not better. Surprise, 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 surprise. Sorry. Okay. The rise of AI generated fashion has supercharged the problem. New tools scrape thousands of traditional garment photos, remix the aesthetics, and spit out original designs that are completely divorced from their cultural roots. In fact, several indigenous designers in Canada, Mexico, and the US are preparing a class action suit against a major AI fashion platform for scraping their Instagram portfolios and tribal archives without their permission. Here in the US, you know them. Brands like Shein and Boohoo are mass producing by the boatload Afro-Caribbean prints with no licensing and no ties to the communities they're actively exploiting. The legal system here, still behind. Traditional cultural expressions, or TCEs, have no formal IP protection in the United States, unless they've been commercialized or registered by someone else. Translation for everyone here. If your culture didn't file the paperwork, it's fair game for exploitation. And when those communities try to speak up, Of course. They're told to be flattered because they're being acknowledged. What? But as for indigenous fashion designer Amber Dawn Bear Robe put it, flattery without consent is just theft with compliments. And that, my friends, is simply a fact. So, from high-tech labs to high fashion runways to high traffic hashtags, Black and brown creators are still the most imitated, least protected, and first erased instead of the first to be celebrated. In a year where innovation is the buzzword and AI is the newest baddie on the block, America's legacy of cultural theft is accelerating, not ending. And until the systems change, we have to keep asking, whose ideas are really being protected? Because in this economy, credit isn't just respect, it's power. Let's take a quick break and then meet me right back here, where I've got a case to share with you that changed everything. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back. If you've ever laughed at a meme, reposted a TikTok remix, or created something that riffs on pop culture, you owe a thank you to Luther Campbell. Before TikTok and YouTube, before SoundCloud rappers and parody Twitter accounts, there was 2 Live Crew. Raunchy, brilliant, and completely unafraid to shake the system and have women shake that. But in the early 90s, their parody of Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman landed them in a legal war over ownership, creativity, and the boundaries of the First Amendment. The case that followed didn't just change music, it changed how we understand art, comedy, criticism, and remix culture altogether. And in today's world, where AI can clone your voice, TikTok can lift your dance, and corporations remix culture for cash, this 30-year-old case still sets the rules. This is the story of Campbell versus Acuff Rose Music, the case that made parody legal, protected cultural commentary, and cracked open a system that too often punishes Black creativity. Now, let's rewind to 1989. That's when 2 Live Crew, led by Luther Campbell, commonly known as Uncle Luke, just for some of y'all if you didn't already pick up on who Luther Campbell was, released a parody of Roy Orbison's 1964 classic, Oh Pretty Woman. I'm sure you've heard it. I know I have. It's a bop. Now, their version was raw, raunchy, and dripping with satire. It was included on their album, As Clean as They Wanna Be, a tongue-in-cheek follow-up to their previously censored album, As Nasty as They Wanna Be. It was intentionally provocative. The group was using humor, sex, and parody as both commentary and rebellion, especially as Black Southern artists facing censorship and legal scrutiny. Enter Acuff Rose Music Incorporated, the publishing company that held the rights to Orbison's song. In 1990, they sued. I'm not surprised about that, claiming copyright infringement, and insisted that 2 Live Crew's version wasn't protected by fair use, especially since the group profited from the parody. Initially, a federal district court in Tennessee sided with 2 Live Crew in 1991, finding their version was indeed transformative and a valid parody. But in 1992, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed that decision, focusing heavily on the fact that 2 Live Crew made money from the track. They argued if it's commercial, it's not fair use. Okay. So, 2 Live Crew did what most artists, especially black artists, never get the chance to do. They took the case to the US Supreme Court in 1993. The Supreme Court heard arguments in November of 1993. At stake was whether parody qualifies as fair use, even when it's explicit, offensive, and making money. The legal framework for the case was the 1976 Copyright Act, which outlines 4 key factors for determining fair use. 1, the purpose and character of the use, whether it's commercial or transformative. 2, the nature of the copyrighted work. 3, the amount and substantiality of the portion used. And finally, the effect on the market for the original. Okay, follow here? The Sixth Circuit had leaned hard on the commercial angle, but the Supreme Court, in a landmark, and I mean a landmark, bitch, March 1994 decision flipped the script, writing for a unanimous, and that means all 9 of the justices on the court agreed in some capacity. Justice David Souter emphasized that 2 Live Crew's version was transformative, commentary-driven, and thus eligible for fair use protection, even though it was sold for profit. Souter wrote, "The goal of copyright is not to reward the labor of authors, but to promote the progress of science and useful arts." T. The ruling redefined what was coined to be transformative use in American copyright law. It is said that parody, and by extension satire, commentary, remix, and criticism, deserved protection, especially when it contributed to something new. This was not just a win for 2 Live Crew. It was a precedent-setting victory for generations of creators, fast forward to now, who rely on transformation as a tool of expression, especially those outside the cultural mainstream. Now, post-1994, the cultural impact of this case was massive. Suddenly, remix wasn't just a style, it was legally protected speech. Hip-hop artists could sample more freely, though they still had to be within the confines of the law, so cautiously. Sketch comedy could satire pop culture with more confidence. And as the internet boom hit in the late 90s and early 2000s, meme culture and video mashups exploded. But even with the legal win, enforcement remained unequal, let's just say that. As early as the mid-2000s, Black YouTubers and content creators were being flagged left and right, shadow banned, or completely demonetized, often for content that was clearly parody, fair use, or transformative. Fast forward to the 2010s and where we are now in the 2020s, platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram became the new battlegrounds. Black creators were leading the way in remix culture, and still do, to be clear. But were also the ones most likely to be punished by vague community guidelines or copyright takedowns. In 2021, TikTok faced a backlash for suppressing political content created by Black users specifically, even as white creators profited from identical formats and viral trends. You can't argue the facts there, okay? What's really good? What's really good, TikTok? Now in 2025, we're staring down the next remix frontier, and it is involving two letters. Can you guess? Say it with me, everyone. AI. Tools like Suno, Udio, and 11 Labs can now generate, y'all, voice clones, AI music, deep fake videos, parodies indistinguishable from the real thing, mashups of two completely different songs that are perfectly balanced and integrated together. Y'all, it may be cool, but it actually takes a lot away from creators, whether they are brand new to the game or whether they're seasoned. It's wild. And yet, it's often marginalized artists whose work is scraped, replicated, and remixed without permission, while they have no access to legal recourse, which is the exact reason why they become taken advantage of so often. Meanwhile, when those same artists attempt to critique or parody corporate brands, political figures, or oppressive systems, they're shut down, they're demonetized, they're blocked. 2 Live Crew's case was supposed to protect those creators. But in practice, fair use isn't fairly applied. Despite the challenges, the Campbell decision remains a beacon. It gave us a legal foundation to protect satire, parody, commentary, critique, cultural reinterpretation even. And that matters because remixes have always been a survival mechanism in Black and Brown communities. We always go up for the remix, and we always compare the original to the remix. That's also why artists will create an original and a remix. It's a part of who we are because we just have that sauce. We have the fire, we have the it factor. But think about it. The blues remixed slave songs. Hip hop remixed funk, jazz, and political unrest. Drag culture remixes gender, politics, and celebrity. Black Twitter remixes trauma into a viral comedy. Artists remix racism into resistance. Now, there are many examples that we could list that hit one, if not all of those categories, right? These aren't accidents. These are cultural weapons. And the right to remix is the right to speak truth when truth alone isn't being heard. But in 2025, those rights continue to be under pressure. Politicians are pushing anti-obscenity bills that could censor queer, Black, and satirical content online. Corporations are lobbying to tighten copyright laws to protect their IP from parody, even when they exploit cultural references from marginalized groups. So you're gonna throw the rock and then hide your hand from a glass house. Okay. So here we are. Remix is everywhere, but the fight to protect it is far, far from over. When Campbell versus Acuff Rose landed in 1994, it wasn't just a win for 2 Live Crew or Uncle Luke. It was a win for anyone who has ever flipped the script, clapped back at culture, or told the truth through parody. The court recognized that transformation is creation, and that the messy, hilarious, raunchy, uncomfortable art that challenges power is exactly what the First Amendment was built to protect. But the legacy of that ruling is still being tested. In a world chock full of AI ripoffs, remix bans, and cultural exploitation, as well as appropriation, we need to hold the line. Remix culture is not theft. Remix is survival. Remix culture is speech. It is activism. Remix culture is justice. Now, do me a favor. Go play some Uncle Luke and shake that ass for a minute. Big booty hoes, big booty hoes. Hey, okay. We'll be right back after this. Hey, y'all. So, you know what an asterisk means. There's a catch, a disclaimer, a quiet little clause that changes everything you just read. Some call it a major inconvenience at times, depending on what the asterisk pertains to. And when it comes to intellectual property, however, those asterisks aren't just fine print. They're flashing red signs for marginalized creators. In this exhibit asterisk, we're taking a scalpel to the unspoken conditions baked into the IP system. Because in America, who owns what often comes with an asterisk that reads, unless you're black, brown, broke, or brilliant, without the backing. A 2021 study by the Algorithmic Justice League found that black and brown creators are more likely to have their content suppressed or flagged for violations, even when it mirrors content from white creators. The asterisk here, you're free to create unless your content makes people uncomfortable, political, or too black for the brand, too much nigga. And if you do go viral, good luck asserting IP rights. TikTok's attribution tool that they have is totally optional. There's still no standard protection for viral dances or memes. Platforms often side with brands when takedowns are disputed. So creators who build culture end up watching someone else cash in altogether while they're shadow banned for nudity or harassment or incensing other people to have strong views, which is literally what every other creator is doing. This isn't about content moderation. You don't need me to tell you that. It's about control over creativity. And the algorithm's silent asterisk that says, we celebrate Black creativity until it challenges our power structure or requires payment. Now, our final story, our final asterisk in this segment is going to talk about fair use, which is something we just talked about in our 2 Live Crew case from segment 2. Fair use is supposed to be the great equalizer, right? It lets people remix, it lets people parody, it lets people challenge power through creative reinterpretation. We just talked about this. But as we saw in that case that changed everything, Campbell v. Acuff Rose didn't erase all of the fine print. In 2025, Black and brown creators are still disproportionately punished for using copyright material, even when their use clearly, very obviously, legally falls under parody or criticism. Meanwhile, major brands regularly produce ad campaigns that remix viral Black content without attribution. Oh, without payment as well. and get away with it under the same fair use umbrella. The asterisk to all of this is that fair use works best when you have a legal team to argue your case. If you're just a TikTok user in Baltimore with 300,000 followers, which go off, bitch. I mean, 300,000, that's still good. But if you have no lawyer, you're more likely to get silenced than cited, regardless of how viral you go. So when the system says everyone can remix, what it means is you can remix, yeah, if we like you, if we approve of your tone, your message, and if your remix doesn't make us uncomfortable or cost us money. And that, my friends, is simply a fact. So, protect your work. Hey, duh. That's what they say. Own your genius. You can control it all. You control the narrative, they shout. But scroll down and you'll find the fine print. Offer not valid if you're black, brown, broke, or bold enough to remix Beyonce. Must be this rich to file. Void, where culture was originated. And let's keep it funky, like for real, for real. No tea, no shade. Actually, all tea, all shade here. Half the time, more than half the time, all the content you create right now, even the shit I do right now, the system is not protecting this IP, even with the laws in place. What it's gonna do, it's gonna rob you of your creativity, your thoughts, your viewpoints, run it through an algorithmic software, slap a trademark on it, and sell it down to the target. So while corporations are out here literally copy and pasting your soul into a tote bag, just know this: you can create freely as long as you don't expect credit, compensation, or even acknowledgement.
Yeah, double homicide.
Until those asterisks are gone, it is not a fully protected system. It's a terms and conditions trap with cultural theft in a good old 12-point Times New Roman font. Maybe they couldn't even do it. Anyway. Yeah. After the break, it's time for this week's objection. Don't meet me there, baby. Beat me there. Okay, y'all, welcome back to this chaotic episode that I'll talk about a little bit more in the afties today. But wow, what an ordeal today's recording process has been. So we are at our last segment. So we are at Objection, Your Honor. And I'm just going to talk my shit. So boom, here we go. That's all I got. Your Honor, I rise today to file a motion. Not for a summary judgment, but for summary common sense. Because J. Bullock, object. I object to the remix economy as it is. I object to the algorithmic con artistry of it all. I object to the full-blown blue check verified scam where black creators give the world the flavor, the sauce, the recipe, and corporation serve it back cold and overpriced. Not even as good. Let's talk about this thing we call platform culture. Social media, streaming apps, AI remix tools, aka really the holy trinity of copy, paste, profit. These platforms love to say they're leveling the playing field, giving everyone the power to create. But when it comes to black and brown creators, the algorithm doesn't serve us. It feeds on us. It feasts on us. Why? Because black people have always, and I mean always, possessed the recipe. Full stop. Black creators go viral with a dance? The black the platform delays it, buries it, or flags it for sensitive content. Then a white influencer, Becky Joe over there, she reposts it. And suddenly, it's the soundtrack to a Nike ad. Ain't that about a bitch? That's not exposure, that's extraction. And don't let a black creator speak truth, add critique, or get political at all. Listen, I'm catching strays as I object. The same platforms will take that content and turn into church ushers. All right, baby. All right, Jay, we're going to have to quiet that down, sweetheart. You're going to be disturbing the brand. You can't be shaking the table. Meanwhile, white creators who repost, remix, or monetize that same content, they get boosted, branded, and offered a collab. The remix economy is booming, but guess who doesn't get invited to those meetings? Black creativity is the foundation, the launch pad, the algorithm's most valuable asset. And yet, it's never the copyright holder. You want a real remix? Try this for change. Take the creator out of the check, leave them off the credits, then trademark the content and sue them if they clap back. That's the remix economy in 2025. And now, with AI in the mix, it's giving an episode of Black Mirror with a Canva subscription. Bitches just taking everything from every source, left, right, and center, and creating some amalgamation of a new product that will then go viral. We've got platforms that can literally clone your voice, deep fake your voice, auto remix your content, and feed it into an algorithm that prioritizes anyone but you. A viral video is not protection. A hashtag is not ownership. And a TikTok credit tag, it's not a contract. It's a digital participation trophy. Let me make it real plain here, okay? Black creators are giving culture. They are the culture movement in itself. The system is giving us crumbs, paying us dust. And the algorithm is giving gaslight, gatekeep, gentrify. You can add girl boss in there too, because hell, only a Karen is really gonna say gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Remember that renegade dance I talked to y'all about early in the beginning of the show? Jalea Harmon, she created it, right? It got snatched up, repackaged with some old wifes over here and performed on the Tonight Show by some other people all together. No invite for her. She had to see it on TV in a clip after it had already aired. Bitch. Insert online Black influencer here that has also experienced the same damn disservice. Only after social media blew up with outrage did she get credit. But did she get paid like the people who stole it? Hell no. Did she get endorsement deals? Absolutely not. Licensing rights? Chopped. Just vibes and trauma. Let's call this what it is. Remix without rights is just exploitation with rhythm, and those affected are left singing the blues. You'd think these billion-dollar platforms built on the backs of our brilliance would, I don't know, invest in attribution infrastructure or create licensing tools or basic cultural respects for their creators. Instead, they give us creator funds that pay 3 cents per 10,000 views, while brands profit off the trend in global ad campaigns, 3 cents for every 10,000 views. What more do you want me to tell y'all today? Oh, I got something else though. Here's the kicker. When we remix, it's a threat. When they remix, it's innovation. You're gorgeous. You're beautiful. You look like a Linda Evangelista. You're a model. They just eat our creativity right on up. When a queer Black creator uses satire to drag systemic injustice, that's harassment, inappropriate, or flagged by the algorithm faster than you can say community guidelines. But when a tech bro builds an AI tool that auto-generates rap lyrics using Black cultural references scraped from the internet, oh, that's disruption. That's visionary, forward thinking, bitch. That's please take this $30 million funding for your creativity and your platform. That's this isn't a remix economy. It's a reverse engineering of oppression. Take the culture, strip it of context, clean it up for white audiences, and resell it to the world like they invented it. So yeah, Your Honor, I object to the algorithmic remix racket, to the cultural strip mining dressed up as collaboration, to the constant casual erasure of creators who built the damn internet, like literally built the internet to be what it is today, but can't get a seat at the monetization table. This is not equity. It's exposure without compensation. It's virality without value. It's remix without rights. And until the system starts paying up, protecting creators, and punishing plagiarism with a pulse, all we've got is an exploitative echo chamber. One that sings our songs, steals our style, copies our voice, and then dares to ask us for applause. All right, y'all, we made it. That's it for this week's episode of Overruled, where we've been breaking down the legal system quite literally before it breaks us. If this episode gave you life, rage, or at least a legally informed side eye, make sure to follow your boy, like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to know where the real IP theft is happening. Got a legal conundrum, query, a rant of your own, or a remix they didn't credit you for? Hit us up on the Overruled podcast at gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Overruled Podcast. And catch our content on YouTube at The Overruled Podcast. Oh, also, when you're doing that liking and subscribing thing and leaving reviews, let's be 5-star bitches, okay? So that means you need to be a 5-star bitch on the review. If you're not here for 5-star bitch energy, then baby, do not leave a review, okay? 5 stars, because we are 5-star bitch, and we're a 5-star podcast. We are a 5-star community, okay? All right, anyway, thank y'all so much for listening this week. This show is a movement. And guess what? Protecting our voice is more than just a copyright or a movement in itself. Y'all, it's our resistance. Okay? Amen? And trust me when I say this show, baby, it will not be muted. Bye. Da, 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 da. Me. Oh my God. So the song that just came into my head, y'all. Shout out to Uncle Luke. Shout out to the Two Live crew. Me so horny. Oh my God. Thinking about that, and let's think about it. We're here at Afties, okay? So yeah, girl, we're here. Um, girls, boys, everyone, royalty, everyone. Me so horny. If you were to think about that song being written with a 2025 lens, girl, let me tell you, bitch, that song would cause even more upheaval than it did in the 90s. I I've got to say that song would not hit the same in 2025. The appropriation of it all, but anyway, that is crazy. That's the song that came into my head, and I'm not about to sing that song. So y'all can play it and go back down memory lane if you really want to do that. Anyway, welcome to JB's Afties, formally. Today, I am drinking on one of my favorite sparkling waters, Topo Chico. But this one is the Topo Chico with a hint of lime. And it's really, really good. It's so refreshing. And I love a glass bottle. I don't know. I don't know if that does that make me basic? I don't think it does. No. But I love a glass bottle. It just makes me enjoy the drink even more. Whatever the drink is, a glass bottle, it just makes you feel like, ooh, rich. It just makes you feel opulent for however long you have the bottle and you're consuming it. But that's neither here nor there. So, what I am going to bring up, because I mean, today's recording, I'm looking directly at this camera, was hell. For some reason, like it was like interruption after interruption. And then my phone, my iPhone was like, "Ooh, your storage is full." And I'm like, "What do you mean my storage is full?" So it stopped recording. And so I had to reset and then get everything together again. And then it stopped once again, like 3 minutes after I thought I had fixed the situation and the problem and got the memory back together, the storage back together. Bitch, I have had to start and stop no less than 3 or 4 times because I'm also babysitting my friend's dog, and like you won't hear it because I'm for damn sure editing it out. But it was just a car passing my house. That's it. And the alert, the sensor was saying someone was there. And bitch, they cut the up. And it was like deep baritone bass, very white levels of barking. Like, I was just like, girl, you have got to be kidding. But anyway, we did it. We made it to the end. And I know, and if I know because I'm going to be doing this editing, that it's going to be a bitch to edit. But I'm sure some of you also can relate to that who are also, in the creative space. And when you have like a lot of, I won't even say bloopers, but you just have a lot of things that pop up and you have to edit out, it just becomes so much more tedious. So I know this episode will probably, it may look a little unhinged. I don't know. We're gonna see. The audio will be great, but anyone watching might be like, wait a minute, hold on. Did something change here? I don't know. If you can spot it, if you can spot where my meltdowns happened on my phone, on my other camera, I should say, baby, good for you. Because I'm gonna do my best to make sure this is seamless, okay? We want a crisp, clean episode. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a good week. And I hope that you guys are enjoying summer. Bitch, it's hot out. I'm just, I'm glad. I'm glad that we got good weather here in SoCal. But, it's been a little warm. And I know some of y'all will probably shade me, especially if y'all aren't living in SoCal. Cause you'll be like, bitch, you want to talk about warm. It's like almost 100 degrees here. And I'm complaining about it being in the 80s. Listen, I get it. I get it. As someone from Louisiana who was used to, remember, keyword there, was used to 100% humidity and it being 100 degrees outside, I can say I've lived it and I know that that's not my ministry in this big age that I'm at. So, now my body has adjusted and now I get to complain about it being in the, you know, mid 80s and slightly muggy. It's crazy how that works, but that's just anatomy and how we adjust to locations. Anyway, we're not in science class and I need to do a few things. I need to get my life together cuz bitch, it's been a long week for me. Um I'm recording this on a Friday. So, yeah, it's been a long week for me and I am so ready to wind the down. Okay? Whew. I'm not even working out today. Like, and I work out typically, I want to say at least 5, more often than not 6 days a week. So, giving myself an off day, I'm just like, we about to do that. We about to chill out. Um and see what we can get into. Okay, that's all I got, friends. I love y'all. Not in a weird way. You know how this goes. You ain't new here. Well, maybe you are new here. So I love y'all, and I mean that, but not in a weird way. So you can receive that. And I want you to love me back if you feel so inclined, that is, but not in a weird way. Okay? It's 2025. Niggas is crazy out here. All right, that's all I got, y'all. Talk to you later. See you in the next one. Bye.